What you've just heard is one of the many deaths from the monkey, the new major motion picture from Osgood Perkins, Stephen King, and James Wan. Experience it in theaters everywhere this Friday, because everybody dies, and that's life. Let's have some fun.
At T-Mobile, our critical mission is providing unparalleled 5G coverage for when connectivity is mission critical. Introducing T-Priority, America's best 5G network experience for first responders, even in times of congestion. More capacity, faster speeds, better coverage. T-Priority from T-Mobile, built for tomorrow's emergencies, ready today. Discover more at t-priority.com.
For qualifying organizations on eligible rate plans, coverage not available in some areas and may be impacted by emergencies.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Big Mad True Crime, where we get big mad over true crime. I'm your host, Heather Ashley, and today's case is a mixture of heartbreak, helplessness, and confusion. Did a little girl from South Dakota who bounced around from home to home run away, never to be seen again? Or did something more sinister happen? Small talk sucks, so let's dive in. Serenity Dennard never had that dream childhood that everyone imagines for their children. She was the fourth child to her biological mother, but the only one that she had custody of. The previous three had been adopted into a loving family together before she ever got pregnant with Serenity. During her pregnancy, though, she really seemed to be getting her life together, and according to the Vanish podcast, when Serenity was born, she tested negative for drugs. Unfortunately, things didn't continue to look up as much as everyone once thought they might. One day, when Serenity was 2 years old, her mother was sent to prison and she was left with her father. Eventually, he too got in trouble with the law and wound up going to weekend jail and working throughout the week. He enlisted his mother for help in raising his daughter, but she was schizophrenic and had an episode where she called the police, convinced that someone was coming after Serenity. CPS got involved, and even though her extended family of cousins and aunts across multiple states wanted to take her in, instead, she was placed into the foster care system. Within 2 years of being in the system, Serenity lived in more than 12 different foster homes. That's an average of one home every 2 months. By the time she was 4, both of her biological parents' rights were legally terminated and she was put up for adoption. But it wouldn't take long. A couple named Chad and Darcy were looking on the Department of Social Services website when they saw a cute, blonde-haired, blue-eyed Serenity and instantly fell in love. Chad and Darcy already had 2 kids, one of whom they had previously adopted around the same age as Serenity was, and it seemed like a natural fit. They contacted DSS about starting the adoption process and were told that Serenity had some behavioral problems as a result of her history. To be more specific, she had been diagnosed with reactive attachment disorder, or RAD. RAD is a disorder where a child is unable to form healthy attachments to their parents or caregivers, and it's not just something that happens overnight. According to the Mayo Clinic, it's generally caused when a child's basic needs for comfort, affection, and nurturing are not met. A child with RAD might isolate themselves. They may inexplicably become sad or scared or upset. They tend not to seek comfort when it's needed or respond to it when it's given because they were never ingrained to understand what comfort really is or what it does. It's most common in children who bounce from foster home to foster home, live in a children's home or facility, have parents who suffer from substance abuse, prioritize criminal activity, or have severe mental health problems that impede their ability to parent. And for Serenity, that was pretty much her story. But Chad and Darcy didn't care. They were willing to go to counseling with their new daughter prior, during, and after the adoption of Serenity was finalized, which happened in October of 2014. Unfortunately, within just a few months of finally getting adopted and being given this picture-perfect family life of a forever home with 2 parents and 2 siblings to call her own, Chad and Darcy file for divorce, and once again, Serenity is left to mourn. I mean, she's still their daughter, but this girl cannot catch a break. Initially, Darcy kept the kids, but not for long. According to an interview with Chad on the Vanish podcast, within just a couple months, she met a new guy and moved away, and the kids were sent to live with Chad. Her reasoning didn't seem to be the new man or the move, but because Chad had a bigger house and he was better at disciplining Serenity. But I mean, what changed? You had the kids, you met a new guy, you moved away. A couple months after the divorce, Chad starts dating again as well and falls in love with a woman named Cassandra, who is 12 years younger than him, and she takes on the role as Serenity's mother. There was talk that Darcy maintained a relationship with Serenity on an every other weekend basis, but the details of that relationship are a little muddy. In an interview, Darcy mentions that Serenity would cry alligator tears when she would go back to her dad's house after visitation. But I don't know how often these visits actually were or how long they lasted, because Chad wound up moving away, and according to the Missing Persons Case Network on Facebook, Darcy had no idea when he did. She didn't even know when he moved back. So clearly the two were not in much contact at all, if any. As Serenity got older, her symptoms continued and arguably got worse. In an interview with the Rapid City Journal, Cassandra tells them that unlike many children with RAD, Serenity didn't have any trouble introducing herself to people or asking kids to play with her. In fact, she loved being the center of attention. The problem was that she would eventually try to start and control them in negative ways. She tells them Serenity is charming, she can win your heart, but at the same time, she's going to tear it apart at some time too. And it's hard to hear a parent say that about a child, but let me reassure you that it is extremely difficult to be the parent of a child with RAD. Extremely difficult. I did some extensive research on parents and their personal experiences with their own children with RAD, and I cannot imagine the emotional and sometimes physical pain that they go through. I don't think that Cassandra's quote came from a bad place. I think it came from some difficult experiences. Cassandra goes on to tell the Journal that Serenity would refuse to do her schoolwork, rip up papers and other things, break toys, yell at people, and would even at times threaten to hurt herself. And becoming suicidal seems to have been the tipping point in their concern for her behavior.
Claire is practicing her breathing for her upcoming yoga retreat in Bali. Has she ever done yoga before? No. But Claire worked with Empower on her savings and investment strategy. She got good at money, so she can be a little bad. Empower. Invest well, live a little. Join our 19 million customers today at empower.com.
Past performance is not indicative of future returns. Investing involves risks. You may lose money. Advisory services are provided for a fee by Empower Advisor Group, LLC, EAG, a registered investment advisor with the Securities and Exchange Commission. Om Namaste.
Serenity ran away from home on more than one occasion. They never called police, though, and according to what Serenity's extended biological family told The Vanished, sometimes strangers would wind up bringing her back. In one instance, Chad and Cassandra tell the Rapid City Journal that she packed a suitcase in the middle of the night and just left, which prompted them to get a security system. One time, when Serenity was in daycare, she convinced another child to run away with her. She planned so far in advance that she asked the lunch lady to pack her lunch in a bag that day, and then ran off when one of the two daycare employees left the room. Fast forward to May of 2018, Cassandra posts a photo to her Facebook of her baby bump. Her and Chad are expecting their first child together, and just 2 months later, Serenity is checked into the Black Hills Children's Home in Rockerville, South Dakota. According to their website, they're a residential treatment home for children with emotional and behavioral needs. She was enrolled in a 1-year in-home treatment program that could and would be extended if necessary. And while Serenity was there, she tried to run away a few times. Once when they were playing outside, but a staff member was able to catch her and bring her back. Other times, she more so just hid from the faculty under beds and such, and eventually she would be found. But on February 3rd, 2019, the day after a family visit to the children's home where Serenity got to see her siblings and hold her new baby brother, everything would change, and everyone would be left to wonder if Serenity had continued her pattern of running, or if something else, something more sinister, had happened. On Sunday, February 3rd, 2019, Chad and Cassandra waited for their regularly scheduled Sunday phone call from Serenity, but it never came. Instead, a 911 call was placed from the Black Hills Children's Home reporting that a child had run away from the facility and they couldn't find them. That child was Serenity Dennard. A friend of Darcy's, Serenity's adoptive mother, sees a news report on Facebook and sends her a text about Serenity being missing. And according to the Missing Persons Case Network, Darcy, the woman who was Serenity's legal and adoptive mother, didn't even know she had been put into the children's home in the first place. But she doesn't seem to react with any kind of shock or urgency. In fact, it's reported she waited until after her shift as a nurse before she ever checked in with law enforcement about what was going on. The children's home was closed for the night by that time, and the kids were in bed, so she wasn't able to talk to any staff. But when she did the following day, they had no idea who she was or that she was even related to Serenity. Darcy isn't the only one who doesn't rush there, though. Neither did Chad or Cassandra. They were escorted to the facility on Monday, February 4th. At that point, a full-blown search was underway. Honestly, the people who seemed to react with the most shock were Serenity's extended biological family. In that episode of The Vanish, they wonder why no one had reached out to them to take Serenity if they were just going to put her in a treatment facility because all of them wanted her. Serenity was reportedly last seen around 11:30 a.m. on Sunday, according to initial reports. Emphasis on initial. She was wearing a long-sleeve t-shirt, jeans, and snow boots. The high was only 36 that day. The low was 0, with a wind chill of -13 degrees. There was snow on the ground, and it was still falling, and this 9-year-old girl wasn't so much as wearing a coat. Police don't waste any time or resources in trying to find her. The Pennington County Sheriff's Department, Pennington County Search and Rescue Team, the Rockerville Volunteer Fire Department, the Rapid City Fire Department, and 3 different K-9 units look for missing Serenity until 10 p.m. that night. They even used thermal imaging devices, hoping that her body heat would make it easier to find her if she was hiding somewhere. By midnight on Monday, the Civil Air Patrol joined in the search and started looking from the sky in all directions surrounding the home. This particular plane can detect something as small as footprints in the snow, but none were found. Community volunteers are all ready and willing to sign up to help, but law enforcement tells them that they've got it covered, and frankly, it sounds like they do. On top of who they had searching yesterday, they now also have the Custer County Search and Rescue Team, the Fairburn Volunteer Fire Department, and the Rapid City Police Department. Above all that, the area just isn't safe for the average person to be trudging through. There is ice and snow, hills and cliffs, fallen trees, slippery rocks, and it was freezing. While everyone waits for news, since they can't physically aid in the search, their minds start to wander, and they wonder why there hadn't been an Amber Alert issued. This is asked pretty much any time a child goes missing, but we have to remember that Amber Alerts are only sent out when a child is missing from a clear abduction, and it usually requires a vehicle description, which sucks. We tend to view Amber Alerts as these amazing resources to help look for any and all missing children, but that alert just doesn't exist yet. It should, because I think we all want to and would be on the lookout anytime a minor went missing, and it should happen as quickly as possible, but that's just not a resource our legal system provides. While searches go on the ground and in the air, News Center 1 reports that this wasn't some poof, where did she go kind of incident. According to the director of Black Hills, Serenity ran off during a scheduled gym time for 4 children. There were 2 adults assigned to 2 children. One of them was Serenity. It's reported that one of the 4 children ran off and one of the adults ran after that child, leaving the other staff member behind with the other 3 children in the gym, and that is when they say Serenity took off, and the staff member watched. Instead of running after her, Serenity somehow managed to make it to the gym door, open it, run down a hallway seemingly unseen and unstopped, open at least one more door, and then run out into the cold. The staff member stayed inside with the other 2 children in the building and allegedly made a phone call for help. This phone call was not to 911. In fact, no one called 911 until 12:26 p.m. that afternoon. If she ran away from the gym at 11:30 a.m., which is questionable, and we'll get to that a little bit later, that means they waited an hour before calling police. Their story is that they were searching the property's 2 buildings and outbuilding for Serenity during this time span. I'll post an aerial view of the property from Google Maps and Serenity's highlight at the top of my Instagram profile at @TheHeatherAshley. You'll see that the facility is in a pretty open area that is then densely surrounded by trees. But their particular facility isn't massive, and if you open the door, you'd likely be able to see her, and someone did. At first, it's said that 3 people had. The staff talks to a young couple driving a red pickup, and the first reports were that this couple saw Serenity when they were driving down the road after chopping some wood. To this day, I don't understand why everyone kept including the fact that they had previously been chopping wood. But this couple had not seen Serenity like earlier reports had said. They had reportedly seen someone looking for her, but they say it was around 10:45 a.m. There's a big difference between 10:45 a.m. and 11:30 a.m. Black Hills Fox reports that someone dropping off a family member saw Serenity standing near the cattle grate at the front of the property at 11 a.m. For those of you who don't know what a cattle grate is, it's basically this fucked up metal grate in the ground that cows' legs will fall into and trap them if they try to leave the area. Why they would have one is beyond me, unless this property was once a farm or something. But this facility has been there for more than 70 years, according to their website, so if this was a farm before then, that cattle grate has aged miraculously. But anywho. The Rapid City Journal says that the parent went inside to tell staff that there was a freaking child by the door, and the child inside the car watched her walk north. I repeat, walk, not run. She was reported walking north up the road. But by the time the parent got back to the car, Serenity was nowhere to be found. She even says that she went back up and down the road looking for her, and she was just gone. I have to wonder how the staff responded to this, and I would love to talk to this woman. She went inside to tell staff that Serenity was missing, so it sounds to me like there was no one currently outside searching for her. So who was this couple in the red truck who seems to have had a totally different experience outside the facility? This mysterious couple in the red truck, who's never been identified, seems to have seen staff looking for her outside 15 minutes before this parent claims to have seen her right outside and still on the property. All of this 45 and 30 minutes before they claim Serenity ever ran from the gym. Clearly, something is not adding up here. The time discrepancy makes no sense. If the staff member who watched Serenity run away called for help immediately, what's the timestamp of that call? And why aren't we looking at security camera footage showing us exactly when Serenity left and what direction she went in? Certainly, a children's home specializing in treatment of emotional and behavioral disorders would have security cameras, right? We might be wrong. According to a press conference by law enforcement, they've interviewed 115 people and reviewed security footage from 7 nearby businesses. They mention absolutely no security footage being obtained from the facility itself, despite having been given a $55 million donation less than a month prior, according to the Agris leader. That being said, KOTV says Black Hills will only get a small portion of that $55 million because it's just one facility out of a handful that are connected. But surely someone could have taken a ride to Costco and gotten a Ring or some Arlo cameras and not even put a dent in that small portion of $55 million. I've seen it rumored that Black Hills may have had 1 or 2 indoor cameras, but that none of them were working at the time Serenity went missing, naturally. Regardless of the 7 recovered cameras, they did recover elsewhere. There's no mention of Serenity being seen on any of them. Later Monday afternoon, police announced that they're looking for that young couple in the red pickup truck who a staff member claims they spoke to. They were able to locate the couple, and while a lot of reports say that they were the last known people to have seen Serenity, we know that's not true. They never saw Serenity, so this whole pickup situation just didn't sit right. Police continue their search on Tuesday with more than 100 people looking within a 1-mile radius of the group home. They go door to door, which doesn't equate to many doors. The houses were few and far between, and most set pretty far back from the road. They look in sheds, log piles, on hiking trails, in hay bales, really just anywhere a child might go or hide. And they ask that anyone with cameras set up outside, be it security cameras, hunting cameras, anything, to go look through them and see if they might have caught a glimpse of Serenity after she allegedly ran away, and to check their property for her. All of these properties had some hefty acreage. On Wednesday, things get grim. Authorities announce that the search effort has now become a recovery mission. And they say this based on the weather conditions. If Serenity was out there on her own, dressed in what she was with no shelter, there's no way she could have survived this long. According to Business Insider, at 0 degrees Fahrenheit and wind speeds of 15 miles an hour, you would get a wind chill of negative 19 degrees Fahrenheit, similar conditions to those that they're searching under. Frostbite could happen in as little as 30 minutes. If she did run away from the facility or walk, like was described, she had been gone for at least 2 hours before any major search began. She wasn't wearing a coat or gloves or a hat. She would have been in searing pain. So how is it that no one saw her or her footprints or heard her crying out in what would have been unavoidable pain? Police aren't giving up, though, and they're not ruling out that she may have found a warm place to stay or that someone might have picked her up, but a recovery is a lot different than a search and rescue. In this case, they're now looking for Serenity's remains.
What if an appliance emergency didn't have to be? If your appliances suddenly decided they were done, don't stress. Best Buy has you covered with a wide variety of major appliances from trusted brands, in stock and available now. So you don't have to worry about laundry piling up, refilling the fridge, or that big dinner party you're hosting. Because Best Buy has the knowledge and expertise to get you the right appliance for your home. Learn more at bestbuy.com. Best Buy. Imagine that.
The week turns into the weekend, and law enforcement wasn't lying when they said they weren't giving up. According to News Center 1, they called in 7 more specialized K-9 teams from 4 different states to start searching in areas they think Serenity might be, doubling back in areas that they've already searched. Some of these K-9s were trained to find living and deceased people in the rubble of avalanches. To say that the officials were thinking on their feet would be an understatement, and they were not shy about calling in extra resources. But I have to wonder if police are starting to smell something a little funny when it comes to the children's home. The children's home story of events keeps changing. We heard earlier that she ran off at 11:30 a.m. We know the couple in the truck seems to think that they saw a staff member looking for her at 10:45 a.m., and the parent dropping off their relative says that they saw her at 11 a.m. In a new report, Black Hills now says that Serenity ran away from the facility at 11 a.m. and that they called 911 immediately. But we know they didn't. We know that 911 call wasn't placed until 12:26 p.m. So if they're now saying she ran away at a time closer to the times the witnesses seem to have seen her, that means they didn't just wait an hour to call 911, they waited nearly an hour and a half. Why lie about calling police immediately? How does a 9-year-old vanish into thin air in an hour and a half, on foot, in the snow, wearing clunky snow boots? Police were called at 12:26 p.m. and the first deputy arrived on scene 20 minutes later at 12:46 p.m. According to Black Hills Fox, several deputies were on scene 30 minutes later at 1:16 p.m. and search and rescue teams were quickly mobilized. That's 2 hours and 16 minutes. And it doesn't look like Serenity took the road because, well, if she did, one of them would have stopped her. Which also means she wasn't traveling at the speed of light. Considering the insane terrain once you hit the woods, she wouldn't have been able to get anywhere fast. According to Gossamer Gear, it takes the average person 30 minutes to hike a mile on gentle terrain. But this terrain was anything but gentle, and you'll be shocked when I show you just how insane this search ground was. Serenity wasn't the average person either. She was a 9-year-old little girl. In the slippery ice and snow, wearing no coat, being a child, and tackling hills, cliffs, rocks, and down trees, getting even a mile in that time would be a stretch, which is why I think that's the area the search was initially limited to. Eventually, it was expanded to 2.5 miles. But in that area, they didn't find a single solitary trace of her. Not a single searcher, not a single dog, not a single helicopter, not a single thermal imaging device, nothing, not even when they doubled back. And not finding any of the clothing of someone who likely would have died of hypothermia is strange. In the Kanika Jenkins case, we talked about how hypothermia damages your nerves and in turn makes the victim feel like they're extremely hot. A lot of hypothermia victims do what's called paradoxical undressing, and they're found wearing less clothes than what they were last seen in. This is because they were trying to cool themselves down, not understanding that the heat they felt wasn't actual warmth. And while I think it might be time to look a little further into that missing hour and a half, News Center 1 reports that police don't plan to investigate the facility during the search. That decision is initially really frustrating, but I think they were taking an all-hands-on-deck approach to the most plausible explanation. If there was a missing child in these elements with a history of running away, they wanted as many hands on deck as they could get. And I mean, they did interview over 100 people in the process and get those security videos, so it's not like they were totally sleeping on the investigative side of things. The weather continues to be insane. They get more snow and the cold is so bitter that the search crews have to take breaks at designated warming stations to avoid frostbite, then warm back up and get back out there. You can only imagine what it would be like out there for a 9-year-old without a coat for the last 6 days. The 1-week mark hits on that Sunday, and they still haven't found a single trace of Serenity, and the terrain they're searching is so rocky and hilly and generally dangerous that they're down a canine team because one of them had gotten injured. By Monday, February 11th, 2019, 8 days after she went missing, the searches for missing 9-year-old Serenity Dennard stop. They cite the weather being the main issue, and I cannot argue with them at all. Shit has been insane, just constant freezing cold, frostbite-inducing temperatures, and snow. During a press conference, they say that they'll search again once the weather warms up, but this is South Dakota. I did some historical weather research, and they don't start seeing consistently average daily temperatures in even the 40s until at least March. Theories are thrown around that maybe she ran away to head towards some family in Sturgis, but certainly she would have just taken the road and tried to flag down a vehicle. There were highways just a few miles down the road in either direction if she wanted to get someone's attention and catch a ride. It's contemplated that maybe someone came and picked her up, but it's said that there's no evidence to support that, and police have combed over those security cameras. They would have taken note of all cars, which wouldn't have been many since this is such a desolate area. So that kind of rules out abduction too, unless her abductor was also on foot and had supersonic timing, running, and camera evading skills. Bottom line, there's just no trace of Serenity at all. The story from the children's home continues to get more and more confusing, now saying that they noticed Serenity was missing at 11 a.m. I put emphasis on the word noticed because 11 a.m. is when that parent went inside and told them that Serenity was standing by the road. So did the whole gym fiasco ever really happen, or did they just happen to notice Serenity wasn't there when that parent told them about a child being by the front entrance? The couple in the truck says that they spoke to someone looking for Serenity around 10:45 a.m., which was 15 minutes before they now say they noticed she was missing. So what's the truth here? When timelines are a little fuzzy, it's not that big of a deal because it's usually a small discrepancy and in the middle of a major panic, but 10:45 to 12:26 isn't a small gap, and I'm not really seeing any reports of a huge panic here. Instead, I'm getting the vibe that either something nefarious might have happened, or they didn't have proper security protocols in place and the home is making statements trying to make them look less irresponsible. But with the media pointing out all the inconsistencies, the backtracking and the story changing is making Black Hills look a little rough. You'd expect a well-established and respected home for children with emotional and behavioral difficulties to be on top of things, but instead, we're getting different stories about how she went missing, if someone saw her run, or if they noticed she was gone. But instead, we're getting different stories about how she went missing, if someone saw her run, or if they noticed she was gone. Whether it was before 10:45 a.m. or 11:30 a.m., when we know a witness reports seeing her alone on the property at exactly 11 a.m. The only seemingly reliable witness at this point seems to be that 11 a.m. witness, the parent dropping off their relative, and we don't really know much about them at all. The Wednesday following the halt of the searches, 19 members of the various search teams took advantage of a break in the weather and went back out to look for Serenity. They were hoping that some of the melted snow and ice might reveal something they had previously missed, but again, came up empty. But KOTA TV reports that they plan to assess daily whether or not they can head out for another search. Like they said, they're not giving up. On February 14th, the Hill City Prevailer News reports that police have been doing a lot more than searching the hills for Serenity. They've also been serving search warrants, 2 to be exact, and they're working on a 3rd. What I wouldn't give to know where these 3 places were and what probable cause granted them those warrants. They've also secured 3 more security cam videos from businesses around the area and conducted computer forensics, which led to more than 20 leads that they plan to follow up on. What did they find on those computers, and where are they from? I can only assume that the only computer Serenity would have had any access to would have been at the facility. So again, I have to assume that the computers that are being analyzed are from the facility. There's no mention of exactly what was found during those search warrants or the forensic analysis of those computers, but the police are definitely not sitting on whatever happened to Serenity, and they're keeping an open mind. While I would love to give you a slew of 2 months later, 4 months later, 6 months later updates, those just don't come in this case. Time kind of stood still after the searches slowed down. Police interview hundreds of people and follow up on dozens of leads, but nothing pans out. There's a sighting of a young girl and an older man making out in a store in Las Vegas, and the girl looks so eerily similar to Serenity that this person starts taking photos and follows them out the store and calls police. Police question the man, and I'm not exactly sure what wound up happening to him, but they say the girl wasn't Serenity, but not everyone is convinced. And generally, this persistence after being cleared would make my eyes roll, but I'm going to show you guys a comparison photo in her highlight at the top of my Instagram, and you're going to lose your shit. They are legitimately identical. No one knows how they ruled this girl out as being Serenity, but nonetheless, that's the official conclusion of that possible sighting. There are plenty more sightings that don't wind up being her either, at movie theaters, at stores, and even at a birthday party. And some of these photos I just don't get because they look nothing alike, but no joke, the Vegas sighting is going to haunt me for a while. There have been talks of sex offenders within a few miles having possibly abducted her, or some reported sex caves close by that some believe she may have been taken to. But to this day, no arrests have been made, no sightings have been verified, and not a single trace of evidence has been found telling us exactly when Serenity left Black Hills or where she went, if she did. Nothing more is known about the one witness who claims to have seen Serenity at the front gate that day. It's unknown if any polygraphs have been administered. We don't know what was found on those computers or what any of those numerous leads led to. All we know is that Serenity disappeared on a Sunday afternoon, and everything after that is a giant clusterfuck. I'll update you guys as soon as any news or progress comes in on her highlight at the top of my Instagram profile at @TheHeatherAshley. And of course, I'll be posting photos of the insane searches that were carried out and the comparison photos to that uncanny sighting in Vegas. If you like your podcast ad-free, head over to our Patreon at patreon.com/BigMadTrueCrime, where for just $1 whole a month, your episodes are totally ad-free. If you need more episodes in your life, for just $5 a month, you get a bonus episode on the first Monday of every month. All your episodes are ad-free, and you'll also receive a forever discount code for all Big Mad True Crime merch. And of course, anytime you sign up, you get instant access to all previous bonus episodes. Join me tonight on Instagram at 9 p.m. Eastern for Crime Talk Live, where you go live with me and we discuss your theories of what may have happened. Do you think she ran away, or do you think someone is lying? I'll be bringing you a brand new case a week from today, and I cannot wait. But until then, we out.